I'm a barista at a Melbourne cafe. I've just watched an American tourist have a complete meltdown because we close at 3 p.m. on weekdays. Not 3 a.m., 3 p.m. She stood outside our locked door at 3:07, laptop bag over her shoulder, demanding to know which corporate executive decided to sabotage small business growth by enforcing arbitrary communist closing times. When I explained, we close mid-afternoon because we open at 6 a.m. and want to have lives? She pulled out her phone and started filming a TikTok about Australia's war on entrepreneurship. She tagged it #productivity crisis and #third world work ethic. She's still out there. It's been 20 minutes. She's now on what appears to be a conference call, using our closed cafe as a cautionary tale for her team back in San Francisco about what happens when societies prioritize happiness over hustle. My coworker just whispered that she's going to call her mom. Instead of opening back up, an American couple at Melbourne's Queen Victoria Market tried to buy vegetables at 3:45 p.m. on a Sunday, became genuinely distressed when vendors started packing up, and accused the entire market of coordinated laziness. They kept saying, but it's only 3:45. The day isn't over. The flour vendor tried explaining Sunday trading hours end at 4 p.m., but they interrupted with a passionate speech about how in America, grocery stores are open 24/7 because we understand customer service. They're now writing a Google review claiming Melbourne has a shocking lack of work ethic crisis. A consultant from Boston reported Bondi Beach to the Sydney Tourism Board because too many working-age adults are surfing during business hours on a Tuesday. He'd calculated that at least 40 people who should be generating GDP were in the water at 11 a.m. and demanded to know if Australia has checked its workforce participation rates lately. Welcome to Australian work-life balance, where Americans discover that a society can actually function when people occasionally stop working by the way if you appreciate breakdowns that go beyond the surface and actually decode cultural psychology like this, you might want to stick around. I track this stuff full-time so you don't have toy work in HR for a Brisbane law firm. And an American lawyer we hired lost his mind during his first week when he learned about our 4 weeks annual leave policy. Not lost his mind as in happy surprise, lost his mind as in convinced it was an elaborate prank. He spent 3 days demanding to see the real contract and asking which employees were in on the joke. When I showed him the Fair Work Act provisions, he stared at it like I'd handed him a document proving the moon landing was fake. This is a typo, right? You mean for days? When I confirmed for weeks, he created a PowerPoint presentation for our managing partner titled The Australian Leave Crisis, a Productivity Apocalypse, with charts showing projected revenue loss if people actually took their leave. The presentation included a bullet point that read, Europeans get away with this because they're already socialist. But Australia is supposed to be the Texas of the Southern Hemisphere. It's been here 6 weeks now and is scheduled exactly 0 vacation days because he's saving the company from itself. Our Australian staff think he's having some kind of breakdown. He keeps walking past people's desks muttering for weeks. It's like a ghost processing his own death. And this is exactly the kind of cultural glitch most people never notice, but you're catching it right now. If you like seeing the patterns beneath the chaos, you'll want to be here for the next one. Most viewers miss this level of analysis completely in. American project manager in Perth created an anonymous, concerned employee email account and sent management a 2,000-word manifesto about how sick leave that doesn't come out of vacation days represents moral hazard that will collapse the mining sector. She'd somehow calculated that Australian sick leave policy was subsidizing weakness and proposed an alternative system where employees could sell back unused sick days for crypto. When HR replied that sick leave is legally protected, she responded with a 47-slide deck about how Darwin would be rolling in his grave. She then tried to organize a wellness accountability group where employees would track each other's sick days and apply positive peer pressure. 0 Australians joined. She disbanded it after 1 week, citing cultural barriers to excellence. I'm a receptionist at a Gold Coast medical clinic, and an American pharmaceutical sales rep visiting from Chicago. Absolutely spiraled when our doctor came out at 5 p.m. and said she was done for the day. Even though she had no evening appointments, he'd flown across the Pacific specifically for a late afternoon meeting and assumed end of business meant 7 or 8 p.m. minimum. When the doctor explained she doesn't take meetings after 5 p.m. because that's dinner time with her kids, he launched into this wild speech about sacrificing family time for career advancement being what? Separate's good from great, he told her. Fully qualified surgeon that she was leaving success on the table by prioritizing her children's dinner over pharmaceutical partnerships. Then he pulled out his phone to show her his own calendar. Meetings scheduled until 9 p.m. Gym at 10 p.m., creative thinking time at 11 p.m., sleep from 1 to 5 a.m. He pitched this as inspirational. The doctor stared at him for a long moment and said, "That sounds absolutely dreadful. I'm going home." He's still in our waiting room. He keeps asking our other patients if they're concerned about their healthcare providers' commitment levels. Everyone's ignoring him. One elderly patient offered him a Tim Tam and told him to have a sit-down. "Love, you seem stressed. I manage a construction site in Sydney, and our new American safety consultant reported our entire crew to work safe. NSW, because we take a mandatory 10 a.m. tea break. Not because the break is unsafe, because it exists at all." He filed an official complaint claiming that coordinated work stoppages were creating dangerous momentum loss, and that real construction professionals power through. The WorkSafe inspector arrived and confirmed that tea breaks are legally required. The consultant accused the inspector of being compromised by union influence and demanded to speak to whoever's in charge of Australia's productivity. Inspector deadpan replied, "That'd be the Fair Work Ombudsman, mate. Want their number?" The American then created a rogue Excel spreadsheet tracking minutes lost to beverage consumption and presented it at our safety meeting like he'd uncovered embezzlement. Our Australian foreman looked at it and said, "Yeah, that's called smoko. Been doing it since 1863. Your point?" The consultant has now written to the Master Builders Association suggesting that tea breaks are why Australia lost its car manufacturing industry. The association hasn't responded. Our crew now deliberately makes their tea breaks last exactly 15 minutes while maintaining eye contact with him, an American manager at a Darwin call center tried to eliminate our afternoon tea break by scheduling voluntary productivity enhancement sessions at the exact same time, when literally every Australian employee ignored the sessions and took their break anyway. She sent a company-wide email with the subject line "Cultural Concern, Mandatory Relaxation?" She'd written, "I'm noticing a troubling pattern where team members collectively choose rest over growth opportunities. In American corporate culture, we understand that voluntary means optional. And optional means you should absolutely do it if you care about your career. I'm wondering if there's a translation issue here." Our Australian team lead replied, "Oh, translation issue. We're having our tea. Cheers." The American then created a high-performer track program where employees who skipped tea breaks got gold star stickers on a wall chart. After 1 week, the chart had 0 stars and someone had drawn a tiny violin next to it. She eventually took the chart down and wrote in her performance review that Australian workplace culture resists American-style gamification because of tall poppy syndrome. She still doesn't understand that we just wanted our tea. I work at a Brisbane accounting firm, and an American senior accountant from our New York office visited during June tax season and had a complete breakdown when he realized we all leave at 5:30 p.m., even during our busiest period. He'd assumed tax season meant the same thing it means in America: 80-hour weeks, sleeping under desks, cold pizza for breakfast. Instead, he watched our entire team pack up exactly at 5:30, say, "See you tomorrow," and leave. He literally stood in the empty office at 6 p.m., alone, staring at the lights going off on a timer. The next day, he called an emergency culture meeting to address what he called a fundamental misunderstanding of professional services expectations presented research on American accounting firm hours, and suggested we were at risk of client departure due to insufficient suffering. Australian partner listened politely, then said, "Mate, our clients also leave at 5:30. They don't want us emailing them at midnight." The American looked genuinely confused by this. Like he'd discovered a parallel universe where different physics applied. He spent the rest of the week sending Slack messages at 10 p.m. and getting annoyed when no one responded until 9 a.m. the next day. In his exit report, he wrote that Australian accounting lacks the hunger necessary for global competitiveness. "We've had 0 client complaints. Our profit margins are fine." He's back in New York, probably still awake. "I'm a hotel concierge at a Sydney Harbor property, and I just finished the wildest conversation of my career with an American guest who's been here for 3 days and is absolutely convinced Australia is running a secret experiment in post-capitalism. His evidence: people leave work at reasonable hours. No one discusses their side hustles." And when he asked our bartender about his 5-year plan, the bartender said, "Probably the same job, but maybe I'll learn to make better espresso martinis." The American has interpreted this as either mass delusion or a sophisticated form of performance art. He spent 40 minutes in the lobby trying to explain to me why Australia's economic stability is mathematically impossible, given our catastrophically low stress levels. He kept saying things like, "But when do you optimize? And who's even disrupting anything here?" When I mentioned that Australia has one of the highest median wealth per adult in the world, he literally said, "Right, but are you happy?" As if that was obviously a trick question. Then he caught himself, laughed nervously, and said, "Wait, that came out wrong. I meant, are you happy in a productive way?" I told him most Australians are pretty content, actually. We work hard during work hours. Then we go home, surf, have barbecues, see our kids, sleep properly. He looked at me like I'd just described a prehistoric civilization. "But what about more?" he asked. "More what?" Just ... no. He couldn't articulate it. The concept of sufficiency had short-circuited his brain. He's checking out tomorrow, heading back to Los Angeles, where he has 17 meetings scheduled for his first day back, including 2 during his commute and 1 at 6 a.m. to maximize the day. He told me he's actually excited to get back to real life, where people understand achievement. I wished him well, then watched him return to his room, where he'll probably answer emails until 2 a.m. because that's what winning looks like in his world.